I read that part.
Okay, I think we are live on both platforms now. We should be good to go.
Mhm.
Oh, goodness. All right. So we'll get started. I think we're good over on Instagram.
Yes.
All right. And we're good on Facebook. So here
There an
we
echo?
go.
Does it sound okay?
It should sound good for them. We
Okay, good.
probably hear it in our earbud, though.
Right. That's
Yeah,
okay.
which is okay.
Mhm.
Yep, no worries. Well, thank you so much for joining Live with Renay. I'm so excited to have you. And this
I'm
is
happy to be here.
Alia Kemet. She is the Vice President for Creative and Digital Communications for the North America division of McCormick Spice Company. She oversees digital strategy, content, creative campaigns, social media, PR, consumer affairs, and emerging technology. So that is so exciting to me. I just want to say quickly, when I first met you and we got to McCormick, I was just blown away. Like, I was like, this woman is everything. Like, you were so amazing to me. And
Oh,
I want to say thank you again for welcoming Gold Grinders, um, and just loving on us and looking out for us.
yeah.
And I just really appreciate you, and everyone that I know that knows you have nothing but great things to say about you.
Oh, thank you, Renee. It was awesome to have the girls come. I mean, that was special for my team because we don't get to work with girls every day. I mean, we don't get to host a team of folks to come in and inspire young girls and change their lives. That's what you guys are doing. So kudos to you. We were happy to have you.
Thank you, thank you. You guys were like rolled out the red carpet for us, so it was really great.
Mhm.
So let's get into this. So today I wanted to have a conversation about bridging the racial divide in
Mhm.
corporate America or really just out in the world in general when we're talking about women doing business and what that looks like. And when we had you speak at our team summit, you told us about a story about your first internship at Howard University.
Okay.
Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so I had a really unique internship opportunity. I interned with Nike. I was the Nike intern. Nike had these it was really more like a job. They had these, what were we called? We were called uh, ambassadors. So you were a Nike ambassador to your school, and there were 20. And of course, Howard was the only, and I'm trying to plug this in, of course, the only HBCU. And they would fly us out to Oregon and really kind of train us in, what it was to do marketing and sports marketing. We would come back, and our plan was to inspire, young people on campus, so that they would, enjoy and prefer Nike. And it was interesting because this is at a time where there was no social media back then, right? There was none at all. I mean, it was just um, uh, kind of a more of a guerrilla marketing style at the time. Yeah.
Tell us the story because I want people to understand about how you stand out in the crowd. When you went to that interview and how you went prepared back then.
Oh, how I prepare. Oh, you know what?
Yes,
Okay, you do remember this really well because
yes.
hold on one second, Renee. Let me try to fix this.
Okay.
No. So Renee sent me all of the talking about prepared. She sent me all the instructions. We're gonna be live. We're gonna be on 2 platforms. Do this, do that. I didn't follow directions. So you all give me a second.
Take your time. Hey, you guys. Can you guys hear us okay? I just want to make sure there's not a what do you call it when you can hear it twice?
Okay.
Hey, Katrina.
I think we're gonna be okay now.
Okay, perfect.
So, okay, so what happened was so Nike put up this sign on campus, and they asked for students who were interested in this program, and I took it really, really seriously. So, and I think, and what ended up happening later was when I got the role, they told me a lot of it had to do with how I was prepared. So I actually created an ad of that was really inspired by me and what I thought really the concept of just do it meant. And I created this really was just using like, pictures and words, and I, had it laminated, and I took it to the interview, and I just really kind of went at the time what was above and beyond and presented my work. And that was my way of expressing how excited I was to work for the company. And it was really, just this tremendous opportunity because while I got this great education from Howard University, I had this really exciting role with Nike for almost 2 years. And what that meant was that, I'm learning from people from the biggest kind of love brand, right, in the world. When you think about Nike, how to do marketing from those marketers on the campus of Nike, in addition to going to Howard. And I really think that is what set the groundwork for how I learned how to approach branding in my work. So it was a really pivotal and key moment. And what I said to the girls that day when we were on the talking to the girls and Gold Grinders was, you always need to be prepared. You never know really when that moment is going to come. And I think that was a life-changing moment in my life. To this day, people say to me, well, you didn't major in marketing. No, I didn't, but I kind of got a degree from Nike also. So, that I think was even something I didn't necessarily expect, but it really did change the trajectory of my career. And so, I mean, it was a great time. And then we did some fun things on campus too. We did some crazy things on campus. I remember we had the Howard, what was it called? The classic, the Howard Hampton game they have every year.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's the whole real HU rival. It's not really a rival. So I told, the folks in the program at Nike about this. And I said, I want to have these placards made that says Howard, the real HU, with a Nike swoosh on it. Now, of course, they had no idea what I was talking about, but they did it anyway. And they sent them to me. And I had a whole guerrilla team of my friends and campus pals and people at Howard that and we went out and we had these signs at the game, and they were legit because they really had a Nike swoosh. And so to have kind of even that, I don't want to call it power, but that reach, at such a young age, at like 19, to be able to ask the company, Nike, say, hey, I've got this idea. I think this is a way to activate on the campus of Howard University in a very meaningful way. Will you fund it, and make these and send them to me? And they did it. And I think, I think that was when I look back now, that was really where my kind of transformational ideation started at that time.
That's amazing. The other thing that you shared when you shared that story was they told you that you were the only person that came prepared to that interview.
Yeah.
And so that really stood out for me.
They did. I think people maybe had a resume, but I mean, the resume was expected, right? What were you going to do to set yourself apart from everybody else? Was my thinking. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So let's get a little bit into the topic. In your experiences, you've worked for some really big brands. Have you experienced racial discrimination or felt like you were overlooked for a promotion because of who you are?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Can I tell you? Yeah, I can tell you. I'm like, this is live. This is okay. This is what I will say. I don't know that I was ever passed over for a promotion. I do believe that I have experienced prejudice, that I've been left out of conversations, not invited to the table, not pulled in, maybe passed over for opportunities because let's have somebody who is like us. But I usually combat that pretty well over time once I get into an organization. Where it has, I would say, stopped me or impacted me is more in the interview process. So I have experienced where you've gone to an interview on the phone, you've had a phone interview. And I'm like, we got LinkedIn. You would think, look at me. You can look me up. You can Google me. This is what I look like all the time. But, maybe this didn't happen. I don't know what, maybe they were thinking I was just having a bad hair day. I don't know what they were thinking. But where you have a connection on the phone and you're told you are perfect for this role. This has happened to me with a couple of very large companies. You are perfect for this role. You kill the interview and you walk in the door, and immediately what they see is obviously not what they expected, and like an immediate shut down. This has happened to
Mhm.
me a couple times and then the funny thing is it happened when I interviewed at McCormick. I interviewed for at two different companies, um, and uh, that same week. So McCormick was one of them. And McCormick is a very conservative company. And I'm thinking they're not going to hire me. I mean, I'm not very conservative.
Mhm.
And another Maryland company that is known to be a little more liberal, seemingly. And that is where it happened. And, it was just odd. They ended up saying I was overqualified. I mean, it was just so ridiculous. Mm-hmm.
That reminds me this is before the internet, before social media and all of this, where you can go and see what someone looks like. I interviewed for a position at Amtrak. Same thing. Oh, you're great. You're perfect. You're everything we wanted. Go into the interview. I am sitting in one chair in the lobby. A Caucasian lady was sitting in a chair across from me. And the gentleman came out. He walked right to her and said, "Oh, hey, Renee, we've been waiting for you." She was like, "My
Wow.
name's not Renee." And I said, "I'm Renee." And
Yeah.
just the look on his face, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I know what this is about to be like." So we get into the interview. Everything he said on the phone suddenly was like, "Oh, we're not sure if you're the right fit." And I stopped the interview and I said, "Look, it's very clear to me that you thought that I was Caucasian. I am not.
Yeah.
And this is not something that I want to deal with in my career. So I'm going to go ahead and terminate the interview and you can go your way and I'll go mine." And I came home. Later, they sent me like an offer letter. And I just think that was probably to cover their tracks.
Yeah.
But I've only ridden Amtrak one time since that happened, only because my sorors and we were all going on a trip and everyone agreed to ride Amtrak. But aside from that, that just left a really bad taste in my mouth.
It comes down to the people. It's always
Mhm,
it's because I would like to think that that company isn't like that, but
mhm.
it doesn't matter when you have a person in a role who has the power to disarm someone, to make someone feel uncomfortable. Um, that's exactly what and they do it, and then it's a horrible thing. But it has happened to me. It's happened a couple of times.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so DJ asked us, "Do you think the majority of bias you experienced was due to gender or race?" I'm gonna let you answer that question because you're a Black woman in America,
Yeah.
in corporate America. You are also Muslim. So
Hmm.
how do you believe it's gender or race? And then I wanted you to talk a little bit about how you dispel those myths.
So I think it's everything. I think it's the package. But I would say if I had to say DJ one over the other, I'm gonna go with race. Absolutely, definitely,
Yeah.
um, is race. And I say that because it's a comfort thing, I think, for people. And, even white men have white women in their lives that they're close to, they have relationships with. Their sister's white, their wife might be white, their parent might be white. There's all of this. But so it's not that so they can relate to women. But you have something this commonality, of whiteness. But when you are of color, and in particular Black, I think it is, and if there are people who are not used to and comfortable with Black people, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. And I think that this is a moment of reckoning that people are having because the expectation now in most companies is that you're going to deal with your bias. And I think it's very uncomfortable for people. And I think people are having conversations they don't want to have, but it's not going anywhere. Yeah.
I
But to
absolutely
answer, you
agree.
want me to answer the part about how do I deal with it?
Mhm.
So this is how I deal with it. And I think it's a little bit like you, Renee. You have to show up as yourself authentically. This is what I do. Okay, this is who I am. I am very confident about the skills that I bring to the table in the workplace. I am confident I can transform your brand, your company. We're gonna make some magic. I know that I can do that. Um, and I know that my results are going to exceed the results that you, company, person, whomever, had in mind for me. And sometimes I'm going to exceed the expectations that I had in mind for myself, right? So I'm starting there. And in that thinking, I can go anywhere with this. The result I'm going to give that I'm going to bring to grow your business, that is the value. Okay. Now I'm not going to allow myself to be devalued when I am providing this value to the company. And so a lot of this has to come from inside. I am going to call it out in the moment when it happens, when I see it, similarly to what you did on that interview. If I have an experience, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to question the person. What did you mean by that statement? We're going to have the conversation. If I'm feeling that someone is treating me differently than they treat other people, we're going to have that conversation, maybe privately, but we're going to have it. Because what I find is bullies, they don't do well when someone calls them out on it. Oh no! All of a sudden, there's no. They never did. Would have never didn't mean this, And you find that people will sing a different tune real fast, especially when you're killing it at work, because everybody wants to be on the side of a winner. And I'm gonna win. So you want to come on over now or later. And I find that the people who are sometimes the biggest naysayers, maybe giving you the biggest, the most difficulty. And it's so funny because people say, oh, difficulty. I don't see other people having, this type of difficulty. You'll find that later they don't remember that they weren't on board. They don't. So they're telling that, right? They're the whole story is different now when we're all winning together. Winning. They don't remember they weren't on the right side of history. And you know what? I don't remind them.
Yep.
I don't remind them. That's okay.
When you said that people don't really sometimes want to face their biases, it reminded me of a time when I was in graduate school. We had a diversity and inclusion trainer come in, and she did this exercise. She put the big posters all around the room, and on the top of each one, she wrote like Black, Mexican, Italian, Caucasian, Japanese, and she put us in groups. She said, as groups, I want you to go list underneath each of those, what are your inherent biases about this race? And I was like one of maybe 3 Black people in the class. Most of them were white men. There were a few white women. And just the trepidation for them to write anything on the paper. So like under Black, people had, beautiful. They had smart. They had like movers and changers. And it's just, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Y'all not gonna put what you really think about us because you don't want people to know. So I think it's part of doing that work to also think about what are your inherent biases that you operate from.
And we all have them. I mean, we all have them. It is no way around it. We all have it. I think this is just a moment in time now where the country is realizing how much we haven't changed, over, and that's a sad thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I saw some comments of people giving Pence praises and kudos for stepping up at the last minute and making sure that the election was right. My comments were, how do you give him praise when for 4+ years, during the campaigning before Trump was elected, then all through his presidency, you were up there co-signing everything that he was doing, everything that he did. But now at the 9th hour, when you see what has happened in this country, you want kudos and praise really for doing your job. No.
It's complicit. They were complicit.
Absolutely. 100%. So I'm like, you're not getting any kudos from me for doing your job. Appreciate you doing your job, but
no.
All right. So one of the questions I had for you was really also about being your authentic self and so we talked about how you I address it immediately the same way
Yeah.
that you do. I think that approaching it in a calm manner, in a non-threatening manner, I think those things are important as well, especially when you're trying to bridge that gap and form some type of relationship. Doesn't have to be a relationship outside of work, but just you have to work together. You guys are on the same team, and like you said, you want to win. Is there any advice that you would give for approaching those conversations, those difficult conversations?
I think it helps to have a foundation. I think I agree with you that we shouldn't. We want to approach it peacefully, right? You want to approach it calmly. I think that it's a natural reaction when you see that you're being treated really discriminated against. It's just the bottom line, right? To
Mhm,
be defensive, to be upset. And I would say, you know, on one hand, I say you deal with it immediately, but not if you feel angry. I think you have
mhm,
to deal with it immediately because they're just going to call you the angry black woman. It doesn't matter if you're not angry. If you say something, you're still angry. So
mhm.
better to just do it when you're not angry, when you actually know that you're not angry. Because so then when they're calling you angry, you won't like really get angry. Like that's the problem. But I think having understanding that one, everybody is not against you, and matter of fact, most people are not.
Mhm.
It's usually a few bad apples, and sometimes they don't even know that they're like this. They don't even know that they have a problem. So I think, the first thing I would say is I I think it's important to not be upset, to not come off, especially in a corporate environment when you're working, to not even let that sit in your stomach to the point where you're feeling that type of upset, because then it's difficult for you to show up and actually do your job, which is why you're there. So
Mm,
that's the first thing for me is like, and I think it's knowing that you want to take care of your own reputation at the end of the day. And when in politics, there's so many things going on, right? Politically and the workforce and everything. The last thing you want is to be perceived as this person who just flies off the handle or whatever.
mhm,
So, I mean, my advice to anyone is really one, pay attention, really be good at your job, understand where your allies are. You need to know who are your allies and cultivate those relationships, because I found that sometimes I don't have to say anything. Somebody
mhm,
else does it for me.
mhm,
And that's because I've cultivated relationships. I was having a conversation today with a girlfriend who was talking about the importance of white men in a corporate environment being allies, because today they have the power. So if they have the power, in that power comes responsibility. And when you can impact those relationships with people who have that power and that responsibility because you've developed a relationship, you're really helping the whole. Like that's
mhm.
so that's something that I think is important. I don't like to be in a combative environment, right? I want to be here creating great work, getting along with everybody, enjoying myself. And I think setting that tone that that's why you're here and establishing those relationships is the way to get to that. If we were in the offices now and we weren't all on whatever this pandemic watch,
Mhm, yeah.
I would say have really establishing regular coffees with people that maybe you don't really want to have coffee with. Maybe it's not that comfortable. Maybe you don't really know them, but you putting in the work to know people, it's going to go a long way. Yeah.
Absolutely
Absolutely.
agree with you. Because I mean, some of my greatest supervisors and bosses have been white men, you
Hmm.
know? Not and like you said, not everyone is prejudiced, not everyone is out to get you, but
Yeah.
definitely making people allies, because one of the other bigger things about people getting promoted and moving up and kind of moving in your space and excelling is understanding that someone's always watching you,
Hmm.
someone's always talking about you. And so what are they saying about you in those spaces where they have influence to
Yeah.
influence your future and your career, and you absolutely always want it to be something positive and about your work and the work that you produce, because no one can argue with that.
And there's some things that you're just not going to be tapped for. You could be the best person for the job, but you're not the person that has established this relationship. And even if you try to establish a relationship, they're going to pick somebody that they are closer to or that they feel a connection with, because that is how these things work. And I think when that happens, you need to understand that maybe it's time to move on.
Absolutely.
Like there are times that it's not called a glass ceiling or a concrete ceiling for nothing. Like, I'm not trying to put on rose-colored glasses. I truly believe you do the work, make the relationships, but you are going to find and you're going to experience, as a Black person or a person of color, it may happen depending on the company, where you're not going to be able to get traction there. And you've got to know when that is, that you have options.
Yep. I tell people you should always be looking. Like, you should
Hmm.
always, your resume should always be up to date, so that you can apply for a job, or if someone calls you and says, "Hey, I've got this position open for you. I need your resume right now." The, the other thing I tell people is I keep something what I call a KMA account.
Mm.
That means kiss my and
Oh,
I'm able to I fund that account first, because then you're able to do what you wanna do.
yeah.
You don't, you've got a security blanket for a year. If you wanna walk away from whatever it is that you're doing, wherever you're working at any given moment, you're able to sustain your lifestyle.
Yep. And the best time to find a job, if you are looking for a job, is when you have a job.
Amen.
When you're comfortable and or you're doing well in that job, that's the best time. So I'm not advocating that people should leave their jobs, but I do think you should be prepared, as you said. I do think you should have that resume ready, because you never know when an opportunity is coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hmm.
So for young women, and even men too, who are just fresh out of college, they're entering the workplace, um, what advice would you give them to overcome certain challenges, especially if they know that they're racially motivated?
Well, how would they know?
It could be a something someone said, or that other people are treated differently than the way that they're treated, and it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And they're young, so they may not be as experienced as we are.
So they're
What
already in the workplace.
So that's like, it could be their first job, their second job, but they're
Yeah.
young.
I think this is why it's so important to have mentors,
Mhm.
because it's important to have mentors, and it's important to have really sponsorship within that company. So someone who is saying, and this is what happens. This is frankly what happens when people say, "Oh, it's the good old boys club," or they talk about how white men pull other white men up, or whatever. You take someone along with you, right? There's no reason why that can't happen to some of our young people, but it's harder to establish those relationships. So there's a couple things I would say. The first one is really, I always start with performance, making sure your house is in order. So
Mhm.
your performance needs to be, a high level of performance, because that's the first thing people are going to do. They're going to say, we all, usually what I find with us is we have to do better. We have to work twice as hard to even I'm getting an echo now. I don't
You
know
know
what
what?
happened.
I think my iPod, my earbud died. Let me stick. Give me 1 second.
I think
All
it's the
right,
IG.
got it.
Yeah, I think the first thing that people will say, for I think Black young people in particular, is, "Oh, well, they really didn't work that hard," or their work product wasn't really that great. I've seen folks that are not Black with a really poor really poor work. They get promoted or get moved. We know that they're not that good. We just gotta move them over here.
Mhm.
Instead of firing them, maybe they should
Right.
be fired. But for some reason, it's a lot easier to get rid of us. And so, what I tell young people, what you don't want to do is find yourself in a place where someone is saying something about your work product, because it's a really hard place to get out of. Now, you can get out of it, but it's a lot of work to get out of there. So, you want to have a really strong work product. So, that's not where they're going to go. I would start there. The second thing I would say is, I mean, frankly, if it is really blatant, I would I would bring HR into it. I would absolutely mention it to HR, or have a conversation with human resources. I mean, I know people are very afraid of having these conversations, but you really don't have anything to lose, especially someone who's really young. Are you going to stay somewhere for years where some people are going to treat you poorly? Where you're not going to be able to grow, or are you going to go somewhere where you are going to be able to grow, where people are going to treat you well, and I think I don't know what happened with that. I think that is I think that you only a person can make those decisions for themselves. This is a hard thing to combat. It is not tangible. You can't really hold it. You can't just, you can say all day long you're being discriminated against. Someone could say, no, we're not discriminated against them. That's not really what's happening. And then what do you do? So I think that my advice to young people is just make sure you stay in a strong position with regard to your role at all times. And when you find this is happening to you, have a conversation, have mentors, have people you can talk to who can advise you, because it's a very hard place and it's very difficult to come to work every day miserable. And I just don't believe in that. I think people should be happy. We're at work too long to be miserable. So, you have to take action and get yourself out of that situation.
I'm going to try to add you back into the
I don't know what's
Instagram feed. But no, I totally agree. I'll give you 1 second just to double check. Hold on, guys. We're going to see if we can get Alia back in. We're over here on Instagram, so be patient with us. How's everybody doing today?
Yeah, the Instagram today. I don't know what happened. I just put it down because it rang.
Oh, okay. You put it down?
I did. I can go back up, but it just died. And so I was just kicked out.
Hey guys, can you guys move over to Facebook or YouTube? I'm gonna end the Instagram feed and we'll just go straight from Facebook. Okay. I'm gonna end that one. What you said, it reminded me of a time I used to work at a insurance company. I won't say the name, but I was in college. I don't remember if it was my first year or my second year in college. And I would go there, and it was another young lady that also worked there. She and I were both, I guess, like the receptionists, assistants, whatever. And we both were in college. All of the agents were Caucasian men. And let me accept this friend request so she can see the video. Okay. And she was allowed to come in, do all of her homework during work hours. She got very little assignments so that she could do her homework. I got most of the work. And I never asked for permission, but like during my lunch break, I would do my homework, or if it was, you're welcome. And if it was slow and I had finished doing everything, sometimes I would pull my homework out, but they didn't want me doing my homework. Like one of the agents said to me, oh, you can't do your homework. And I'm like, well, she's allowed to do her homework. And that became a problem because now I recognize that you guys are treating me differently.
Right.
So luckily I've always been in positions where I could walk away from a job. And I kind of learned that really young. I worked at another place that I really felt bad for the people that worked there. But that place was my whole driving force for getting my degree because I never wanted to be treated the way that they treated the people in that organization. So DJ said that this is so key, having the courage to move on when a workplace is not invested in your worth. I absolutely agree with that because ultimately you're in charge of your career and where you want to go in life, and you have to prepare yourself to either change it or to be able to walk away if it no longer suits you.
Yeah, exactly. And to know when it's time, to know when that time is right. And it's a job, right? It's not your whole life. It's not your children. It's not your family. It's a job. I'm a very glass full person. So I always change it. So that's been my experience so far. And I'm not saying everyone can do this, but if I have if I'm in a situation that it's not working for me, and someone told me this a long time ago, they said you need to get out of it or you need to change it.
Mhm.
So I usually change it. And I believe that you can change the culture of an environment, you yourself. I've done
Mhm.
it, I've seen other people do it.
Mhm.
But it doesn't always work, right? And then you have to know when it's time to go. And and I think that there's many reasons. It may be because of discrimination, but it could be because there's just not an opportunity there, or you're not getting it. Like, but maybe you should be getting it. Like, so to spend my time convincing someone of my value who doesn't see it, I'm only going to do that. You're only going to do that, but for so long,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Agree. Mhm. Yeah, totally agree. So now you've climbed the corporate ladder. You've done some amazing things for some really big name brands. Can you
Yeah.
tell me what do you do to mentor and how do you reach back to bring others along with you?
Yeah, well, and that's probably why I loved it when the girls came for Gold Grinders, because if I can do something where I can bring both my worlds together, so like work and community, then that's awesome. I do lead a Girl Scout troop, so I work pretty heavily with Girl Scouts. That middle age is that middle school, you would think, oh, they're the worst, but I like those kids. Those are the ones I like. I think, they smell themselves a little bit, but
Mhm.
they're still impressionable. So that I actually prefer, I really enjoy working with young girls. And so I've done a lot of mentorship and kind of team programs, and I have the opportunity get to give back, through my mosque and also through Top Ladies. And really, our Girl Scouts has been pretty huge because those girls, I started with them. A lot of them like are graduated from college. I mean, I've been doing this now for 10 years. And so you see these girls that, you knew them when they were much younger, and then they're asking you to write their application for college. And that to me is like a full circle moment.
Yeah.
I really enjoy. And then I also mentor a lot of younger women and women of color in work. And not just women of color. Actually, when I think about it, there's a lot of white women that I have mentored at work because they're looking for the same types of things. They're looking, how do you take care of, how do you grow a career and have children and deal with, all of these difficult things that we face with as women. And there's less women of color in the workplace. So if I really were to run down the list, it's probably a lot of young white women I've mentored. And so I've really been trying to make a conscious effort to mentor more young women of color, Black women in particular, in their careers. Um, and it's very fulfilling for me as well to do that. Help with recruiting, to help with even knowing. You'd be surprised how many people don't even know how to put their resume together correctly. You'd be surprised to know how many people are just not showing up for the interview the
Mm.
way that they should. And so little things, but no one ever told them. And so that's I'm not answering that one. I can answer it.
I just I wanted to add to that I think it's very important to when we're mentoring and giving back, especially mentoring people that don't look like us,
Yeah.
that is helping someone that's coming behind us. So
That's
that
a good point, Renee.
yes,
I love that. I love
yes,
that.
because we're building impressions that people are
Yes.
going to have about someone that looks like us. So I think it's very
Yeah.
important when we go out here and we're in the world to do great things and to leave a positive footprint, regardless of race and color, just so that
Yep.
people will always remember how you made them feel and how you treated them.
That's right. Hmm.
And even I made a great friend for life slash connection. He literally said, if there's anything ever you need in life, I will make it happen for you. All
Hmm.
I simply did, I wrapped, he lost his infant child, and
Mm.
I sent a box of gifts that came from a team, um, And I literally lined the box with wrapping paper and wrapped all the gifts that we put in it, and then I wrapped the box. And he was just like, "The care that you put into that
Mhm.
made us cry," because most people would have just thrown the stuff in the box. We would have
Yeah.
opened the box. He's like, "But you gave us a baby shower in a box." Um,
Oh.
and he said, "My wife just cried." And he said, "Just knowing that that's your heart, you've got a friend for life."
Yeah,
So it
it's
is
true.
really the small things.
And I think
So
a lot of the oh,
no, go
gonna
ahead.
just build on that real quick. A lot of the young folks, when I think about like my team and my staff, um, I am not quiet about the importance of diversity and diversifying the workplace. We talk about it openly. Like my direct reports, many they're white, and we've had these conversations. And I was like, guys, our team is not diverse enough, and we need to diversify the team. And I'm not hiring all of these people. We're hiring these people, and they're going to report to them. And so we had these conversations. We did the unconscious bias training. They went into it with gusto. And now I'm like, I mean, every time I turn around, they're hiring somebody black, you know? Which, I mean, I'm not complaining. I think it's awesome. But I think that it's more than that. Like what I've seen for some people, I've seen a switch where there's such an awareness where they weren't aware before, they weren't even thinking about it. And it's not because of racist or prejudice or anything. But it wasn't in their awareness. But you know, you get a black boss and then who we're going to have these conversations, and I've
Mhm.
noticed it's changing the culture, because it can't be, and I try to tell people this, the black person in the position can't hire all the black people. And I've said this at my company to
Exactly.
everybody. I'm like, y'all
Mhm.
have to hire some too, and and it's okay. And I think, and I'm seeing that change from within, and it's really exciting.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. That is hilarious, but it's so true. It's absolutely true. So let's see. I'm gonna come back to your question, Hammond, about balancing work and life. But Arika, did I pronounce that right?
Erica.
Because you
Mhm.
talked about coming from a place of knowing your value and being very confident. That's hard for some women. Talk to us about how you built your confidence and how you came to really understand your value.
That is a really great question. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it two ways. Um, I had to get the job at McCormick in particular. This is really interesting, and you'll get why I'm talking about this. I had interviewed. I had They did a psychological evaluation, so I just knew I wasn't going to get that job, but I did. So they did literally. I've never heard of this, a 4-hour evaluation, and I was like, what are they going to be able to find out about me in 4 hours? And they asked you everything. They asked you about your parents and your childhood, and I mean, it was just wild. I'd never seen anything like it. So after I got the job, I got a report back, and I met with the psychologist, and he walked me through the report. And what he said to me, he talked about resilience, and he had written this like overview about me. And in it was that I was super resilient, and and basically said that I would be successful in the company. But he credited the resilience to my mother. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm a marketer, okay? This must mean something. He said, you need to thank your mother because the mother helps to instill this resilience and confidence in the children. And I was like, wow. So I'm gonna start by thanking my mother because, and I don't know what you have to do to put in to establish this confidence. I can only hope and pray that I'm doing the same thing for my own children. But I do think that, and I'll just say in that, I do think part of it starts at home for people to really feeling like you have wins as you come up in life, feeling like you have praise that you're giving to your children. I got that. I got that from my parents, from my mother, from my father. I mean, my biggest cheerleaders, my champions, I felt confident. And when I didn't feel confident, which was often and still is often, I still feel very often I'm not confident. I'm nervous or I feel scared or like I can't do something. I do a lot of self-talk. And before, now it's really big, right? Self-affirmations. I mean, I walked in my
Mhm.
daughter's room, she's doing self-affirmations, the candle is going. I mean, all of this is what people are doing now. But I have been talking to myself. It's a good thing I'm wearing the mask now so people can't see it. But I've been talking to myself. And sometimes I talk negatively. And so I have to talk myself out of that. But I
Mhm.
talk to myself about that I can do it. I do the deep breathing. Um, when I have to, like, say I'm getting up on stage and I'm going into an uncomfortable, when I had to speak at the present to the board of directors at McCormick for the first time, so nervous, so nervous. I'm like, oh my goodness. And they told me that people at my level never speak to the board, so now I'm even more nervous, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I did, I prayed beforehand, and then I also do. You may have heard of this, and I do this often, where you stand like a with the Wonder Woman pose, with
Mm-hmm.
your hands on your
Mm-hmm.
hips, and you stand up really tall. I really do this, and if you do that Wonder Woman pose, it does help, like, bring the confidence into and over your body. But I'm gonna tell you, I say some stuff to myself that y'all would be like, "Did she say that to herself?" I'm like, "I am bad. I got this." And you can really, it's not easy to do, but I think it's necessary. And who is going to hear you but you? So I do believe in talking to yourself, talking yourself up, building yourself up. And then the last thing I'm going to say about this is, you better have people around you to build you up. My husband says this all the time to the kids. He talks about how your friends are a reflection of you, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
you're around. These are the people you're going to be like. My friends, I'm not going to be the top dog. I have some
Mm-hmm.
friends, I have some cousins, I have people in my life that are fabulous, right? That are really killing it, in whatever their venture is, whether it's business or work or whatever. I want to be around people that I can learn from, that can make me better, and that can also tell me, you got this, we believe in you. And they do. If you have friends that are telling, who are always naysaying or complaining about, or telling you, oh, that's not so great, you should change it, you should do it this way, you don't need that friend, because the friend is going to build you up. It's going to say, you know what, I'm so glad you're doing that, and let me help, and this is how I think we can build on this together. I'm going to support you, I'm going to talk about that. And I think as women, this is something we have to do for each other. I have a lot of women friends. I've never been that person. I don't have girlfriends. I have always
Mm-hmm.
had girlfriends. My
Me too.
mother had a lot of girlfriends. You know what I'm saying? I'm comfortable in a feminine environment with women. I enjoy it. I mean, I got my husband's my guy friend. I don't have a lot of guy friends. I have always had girlfriends. This is just me. And with that does come drama. We know it does. And so I'm not going to say everything has been perfect, but I do not regret building relationships. Relationships are work. Whether it's a relationship, it's a romantic relationship, or a relationship with a friend, it's work. But Erica's asking about building self-confidence. The people you are around will help you in that. My own daughter, she said to me, "Mama, yes."
I
She's
love
doing it.
it.
She's 10. She's 10. Clearly, she's doing this because this is what I do to her, right? So this is the
Uh-huh.
mirroring. You mirror this type of positivity.
Yes.
And I just think that it goes a long way. And I think this is what this man in the psychiatrist was telling me. I mean, I will, if we fall out, and this is, I don't know why, I will forget why. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you got to really do, and it's just in me, like a forgiving nature, a positivity. And I don't want to be mad at people. I don't want to stay long, and I don't want, why? What is it worth? And so, but I think not having all that weight weighing you down, I think that is what helps me to, Erica saying a lot of women don't have the self-confidence. You
Mm-hmm.
got to get that kind of weight. What is it that is not allowing you to love yourself? And that's part of it. And I'll just, now I'm on a roll, but one more is
And
this is
I want to
something.
add to something
Okay,
you
go ahead.
said
Yeah.
about your psychologist before you go to the next one.
Mhm.
So some of you know, a lot of people don't know, I used to own a daycare facility. And so I had to take some training classes and go back to school for early education. But the one thing, if I had to say, I took away from that experience was we learned that the number one priority for early education for children is to build confidence and
Mm.
self-esteem because that goes with them for life. They said, do not harp on kids that don't know their ABCs or their one, two, threes or anything else. Those things will be learned over time, but now is the time that you build their confidence and their self-esteem, and it will carry them through their entire
I think
life.
you're right.
We even went through practices, and I would do this with my staff, where I would say for a whole week, you cannot tell anyone no. You have to figure
Mm,
out what words you can use to substitute no, because we instantly associate no with negativity.
yeah.
And so it's very difficult because innately we tell kids no a lot because they're explorers, they're doing things, and we want them to be safe. But so that is my takeaway as well. If there is nothing else that we can do for people, for
Yeah.
children, is to build up their self-esteem and to help them love themselves and know that you can conquer anything. And
Hmm.
then, had a second point that you said something I wanted to add to, but go ahead and give your last one and then I know what it was.
Oh,
It
go ahead.
was I call it a tribe. Make sure that your tribe, like,
Yeah.
they are your supporters, your cheerleaders, you can call and talk to them about anything. And then your tribe is also there to ground you. If, there's something that you need a little, "Hey, hey, slow down, that's not
Mhm.
quite, right," they can also correct you. But it's
Yeah.
very important to have a tribe around you that pushes you, and, I mean, you know that, um, I support all of my girlfriends that have goals, and I want everybody to win. I'm rooting for
Yes.
everybody, everybody.
Everybody.
'Cause there's space
Everybody
out
black.
here in this world for everybody to win. Like, we can all
Yes.
get this. Um, so go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it was just about I think really eating right and exercising and I'm always falling off of that. But I can tell you when I am not and when I'm, how it is. We're always coming back to it. We're always working on it. I feel better. I know when I eat well. I know when I exercise, I feel amazing. Sleep is
Mhm.
so important. And those having those fundamentals in place really do help, I think, with the confidence to show up to be being healthy first. So that was it.
I agree with you. I definitely agree
Mhm.
with that because sleep is one thing I don't get enough of, and I need to take, better care of myself in that aspect.
Sleep
So
is
we've been
huge
talking
too.
for almost an hour.
I know, but then I had my little Instagram issues, so we
It's okay.
probably lost time. We have to do it again. Yeah.
Yes, I'm telling you, I could talk to you till tomorrow, like, I totally love you.
I
So,
love you
is
too.
there anything else amazing that you wanna share that's happening in your world?
Well, Renee, since you asked, there is.
Let's hear
So
it.
let's hear it. So I'm so excited. And I am launching or I launched, right? So that's the other thing. You speak it, you say it, you do it. A podcast. It is called Grit. It is about career conversations for women of color. So we're going to be talking about some of the types of things we talked about today, but the fullness of us as women too, right? All of that. And to help us to really crush it at work along our career journey and our career path. So, what I'll be doing is talking to different women. And also, some of the episodes will just be me sharing some insights as well. You can subscribe at Spotify or on iTunes or Apple Podcast. And our actual launch days, I'm like, hour. Who is the hour? It's just me. See, this is another thing you you have to do is use the right words. I am launching this podcast,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
February 16th is the launch date. But right now, you can go on Apple Podcast or Spotify and subscribe because the trailer for the podcast is up. So please do subscribe, sign up. You can rate my trailer too. So 5 stars, go right ahead. 5 stars, that
Okay,
would be very
will
helpful.
do, will do.
Yes, thank you. Phenomenal grit. That's
Yes,
right. That's the name of
phenomenal,
it.
great. I'm so excited for you. When you told me about it, I was just like, "Yes, yes." So, um, I'll add another plug. So myself, Olivia Butler and, Dr. Shandor, we're gonna be going, well, I guess it's not live. We'll be doing a room on Clubhouse called Dream Big. And
Okay.
so we'll be talking about how to be fabulous and phenomenal and make all your dreams come true. And we'll be doing some life coaching and business coaching and just helping everybody to get out there and win. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really the whole idea of being on this earth is we're gonna win, we're gonna help everyone else win, we're gonna
Yeah.
grow together, we're gonna make some mistakes, but we're gonna get back up.
Yeah.
So,
Renee, I feel a little bad because I skipped over the brother's question about the
oh,
family. How do you balance family?
oh
How do
yes,
you and I think I should answer it.
yes, you should. I forgot about it. I meant to go back.
Because I was like, I'm not answering that question. But I'm going to answer the question. It's not
Mhm.
going to be the answer people want to hear. I don't really believe in the balancing. There's no perfect balance to family and career, in my opinion. I think that you have to think about your life as more than just one moment in time, and that there's certain times that you're going to lean harder at one place, and there are other parts of that time, your life, you're going to lean harder in another. So when I think about when my children were much younger, I made dinner every single night, right? Or I mean, I was making dinner a lot, and I was really, I think, much more engaged in things like making sure that I'm the one making that food that they're putting in their mouths and things like that. I don't have time to do that anymore. I don't feel bad about it. I did for a while. I was like trying to do everything, and I'm killing myself trying to do it all, trying to be this perfect wife and this perfect mother and this like executive. And it's actually my husband who was like, you need to hire some people. Like you can't, or get other people. Like you can't. You got to farm out. Or what is important? Is it important that I made that meal? I can make meals maybe a couple times a week, or I have an older teenage daughter now. She can make meals a couple times a week. And so I think what when I think about when we were younger, my children didn't go to daycare. I had somebody in the house even when I was working, so I was much more, and I sacrificed. Like gave half my salary to do that, but that was important for the children then. Now this is a little bit. I'm in a season where I'm like I'm gonna be a little selfish about the things that I want, and I think that that's okay. I think that I'm they're older, and I think that we can do that. So there's not really a perfect balance. It's more what is happening at what point, and how do you decide, okay, well, this is where we are. And in another 10 years from now, I'm gonna be in a different season, right? No kids are gonna be in the house. And it's gonna look completely different than it does now. So you just have to keep kind of growing, I think, with that balancing or figuring out, there's no people say, oh, you can do it all. You can have it all. Not all at the same time.
Right. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
100% want to say amen because
Yeah.
you cannot do it all at the same time, but you can
Same
have it
thing.
all. And
Yeah.
your life does change. And I learned pretty early that I can't do it all, and it's okay to hire people. Like I will sacrifice going like I don't drink coffee or go to Starbucks, but if that
Mhm.
was my thing, I would sacrifice going to Starbucks every day so that I could pay someone to come clean my house or
Mhm.
pay someone to wash my car or pay someone to help me do certain things. It is perfectly okay. You just have to figure out how to make it work. And
Yeah.
you can't do it all because you have to sleep and you have to take care of
Mhm.
yourself, and oftentimes we do get caught up in taking care of everyone else and everything else, and then we put ourselves last, so from that aspect, we do have to be selfish.
Yeah. And where is the joy? Like, I there are things that will steal your joy. Just steal them.
Mhm,
Just no joy. And why? Why do it's not necessary to do that, and for people who are givers, you seem like you're a giver too,
I am.
Renee. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? And we get just walked all over the givers. You just give and give and give, and you look up and you're like, well, when is anything left for me? This podcast,
mhm.
I was supposed, I've wanted to do the podcast for 7 years,
Yeah,
and
oh,
I'm
I've been
doing
writing
it
a
now.
book for 7 years, and I
Yeah,
finally
I
this year
got
was like,
book
"You know what?
today.
I need to get this book done." I've had friends that say, "Renee, how are you coming along?" And I'm like, slowly."
Slowly. There's just so many things to do. You gotta figure out, okay, right now I'm gonna do this. In
Mhm,
another 5 years, it's gonna look different. And that can be okay. Yeah, that's right.
mhm.
Balance is the key. I think
Yep.
that's right.
Yeah, and we have to I do have one good habit that I I also try to teach other people is I write down everything I need to do in a day, and I try to just
Mhm.
check it off, and it makes me feel good that I
Yep.
can look at this list and see that I've checked things off to know that, "Okay, I've accomplished these things today," and when you have goals, my favorite saying is do some one thing every single day towards your goals. Eventually you'll get there.
That's right.
So, it's not necessarily, the speed race, but you'll get there. You'll get there. And
Mhm.
we have to take care of each other.
That's right. Yeah.
So I
Good.
wanted to say thank you so much. I really, I love talking to you. We talk anyway.
Yes, you do.
And I just every time I'm about to call you or you call me, I just get so excited because we can just talk all day long and you're just so inspiring. And I
Oh,
really
I have to come into your room when you
yes,
for
yes.
your yeah.
Thursdays, it'll be Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Clubhouse. Our room is called Dream Big. Come join us. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Def
Um, we've got some silly personalities, and the thing that I'm liking about Clubhouse is people just seem to be themselves. There's no
mm.
can't see each other. I don't know. I'm sure they do say some people on their line about their experience, but you know, we're just going to be in there helping people and growing and working together. So come and be a speaker and use the platform to help empower other people. So I'm
I
excited.
love to.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, and thank you
Next
everybody
time,
for
I'll have
joining.
my IG together if you invite me back. I promise.
Oh, absolutely, you can come back. You are always welcome. Absolutely. So thank you
Okay.
everybody for joining Live with Renay. I'm here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Next week, I'm going to DJ was actually on today. I'm gonna have DJ. We're gonna be talking about the role that white women play in this society of racial discrimination and what are some of the things that they can do to advance our cause.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to tune in.
Yes, so Sundays at 7, we are here. Thank you, Dr. Roz. Dr. Roz also has her Dr. Roz show, so guys, tune into that. She just did a great one. Was it this week or last week? What's today? Oh, today's Sunday, so it was last week about the COVID vaccine, so that was
Mm,
really good. So we're just out here, trying to promote and help each other, so I'm loving it. But thank you again. We are going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you again Sunday at 7 p.m. or Thursdays at 9 p.m. at Clubhouse.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.